Okay, hello. Episode 7. Today is Saturday, September 25th, 2021. And I'm just going to get right to it. I'm not really going to give a theme, but I know what I'm going to talk about today. So, I woke up this morning, thinking about this book series that I had read many years ago. It's called The Foundation series by Isaac Asimov. It's something me and my brother talk about quite a bit. We were both really into those books a while ago. But it's funny because I woke up thinking about it and I sort of Googled it, and it turns out the TV show just came out yesterday, which was a huge surprise to me. I don't know if it snuck into my subconscious somehow. Maybe that's why I woke up thinking about it. I don't know. But just to give a brief rundown of how the book works. So it's a sci-fi book. It's written by Isaac Asimov. So it takes place in the distant future where the human race has colonized the entire galaxy. There's trillions and trillions of humans across all the planets, across the whole galaxy. And there's kind of a galactic empire. There's a big civilization. You know, the typical sci-fi trope. He wrote this in like the 30s or 40s, I think. I don't remember, but I don't know when Asimov wrote books. I might be wrong about that. But so, what's the book about? The book is about this guy, Harry Seldon, who is kind of a scientist, and he invents a new kind of science that allows him to kind of predict the direction that civilization is headed. And he realizes that the galactic empire is doomed, that it's doomed to fail, and that the Dark Ages are coming. And so, and they're not just normal Dark Ages, these are galactic Dark Ages. They're going to last tens of thousands of years and be like ultimate suffering for humans. And so, he does what anybody would do, which is, okay, no, what does he do? He realizes that the Dark Ages are inevitable. He can't stop the collapse. Even though he knows it's coming and he can prove it scientifically, there's nothing he can do about it. There's kind of like momentum that's unstoppable. So he decides that what the best use of his time is to build a foundation that will shorten the Dark Ages. So he kind of sets up an organization, the Foundation, that's what the book's named after, that will kind of act like a seed of civilization for humanity to reboot from, to shorten the Dark Ages. So instead of 50,000 years, it's like 1,000 years or something. And I mean, can you think of a more heroic act? To me, it's inspirational. It's kind of like, he's taking responsibility for the suffering of the entire human race, and he's doing what he can to fix it. He's not trying to fix civilization right now because he knows he can't do that, but he knows that he can reboot it. So he's just, within his own power, setting up the seeds of a new civilization. So that's really exciting to me. That's just a really interesting idea, a really powerful idea, in my opinion, because, well, here, I want to talk about Graham Hancock now. So, Graham Hancock, it will seem unrelated, but Graham Hancock is not a fictional character. He's a real human being. He's alive right now. He is, if you Google him and look at his Wikipedia page, surely it will say he's a pseudoscientist or some kind of crackpot of some sort. But he has a theory about civilization and humanity and history. And he has somewhat of a cult following on the internet. There's a lot of people who are really into his ideas, and I don't know if he's right, but it's a really exciting story, his theory. So, real quick, we've all been taught in school, third grade history, whatever you want to call it, that the human race spent a very long period of time as hunter-gatherers, like tens of thousands of years. I think it's probably around 50,000 years. We were just in little groups around the planet, running around, gathering and hunting. And eventually some smart person figured out how to plant food, grow food, and then that's where civilization began. That's where cities started, specialization, trade networks, complex trade networks. You know, we all kind of, I think everybody's familiar with that kind of story. It started in multiple places independently. It wasn't just one place. But that's the current prevailing theory. That's where we have scientific consensus. That's all of the peer-reviewed published journals are all going to say agricultural revolution happened somewhere 10, 12,000 years ago, and civilization happened because of that. So, Graham Hancock has a different idea. And I think it's a very fun idea. It's fun to think about. I mean, it's hard to prove, obviously, because it happened so long ago. But his idea is that civilization is much older than we think it is. That prior to the agricultural revolution, there was a very advanced civilization that was ended by some sort of catastrophic event that had something to do with meteors smashing into the planet and causing an insane amount of chaos. So Hancock's theory is, the idea, which is why I bring up the Foundation series, is that there was a Harry Seldon of this advanced civilization. In that this civilization knew these asteroids were coming, and they prepared. They knew that civilization would be destroyed. They knew that there would be dark ages, and they knew it would be a catastrophe, but what they did is they set up the seeds for the next civilization. And that is where the agricultural revolution came from. All of these places around the planet that started planting food all got the idea from this group of people that set themselves up to survive the catastrophe, pass down their knowledge generation to generation, and then they set across the planet like ancient sailors, and they distributed these advanced ideas again to these people and kind of restarted civilization. So, is that true? Is that what happened? I don't know. But it's a very exciting idea. I mean, can you think of a better person? Like, how better can a person behave in the face of a coming catastrophe than to save the entire human race in the long term? You know, instead of giving up and being like, screw it, they said, no, we're going to do something for our children, our children's children. You know, we're going to, I mean, it's so powerful. It's kind of the Noah's Ark story. I mean, it's funny, Graham Hancock will tell you that the Noah's Ark story was actually inspired by this catastrophe. Because his idea is that these asteroids hit somewhere up in northern Canada or something, and they made a gigantic flood of like biblical proportions, and that's where the flood story comes from. That's why so many different cultures have this flood story, is because like the whole planet was hit by some catastrophic flooding event. And so, you know, Noah is basically the exact same story as Harry Seldon in the Foundation series. It's just a guy that knows that a catastrophe is coming, and he works to save himself, his close loved ones, you know, and he has the seeds to reboot the entire planet. That's what Noah does. And it's very inspirational. I find it so inspirational. It's just like, I would model my own life after that if I could. I mean, what world are we living in right now? Are we facing a collapse? It's 2021. I don't know where we're headed as a society. I don't know if things are going to get better or worse. But if I thought things were going to get worse, it would be, if I was convinced that things were going to get worse and I wanted to be a good person, if I wanted to be a hero like Harry Seldon or Noah or whoever rebooted civilization 12,000 years ago, I would work to create the Foundation today. or something very similar. Like it would be the right thing to do. Or it's all just fun stories and they're just kind of fun to think about. Either way, I'm glad they made a TV show about it. I'm gonna check that out. I hope it's good. It's a very, I made that video about climate change, and a lot of people are very afraid of how, they think our planet is doomed. They think the civilization is doomed. If you believe Graham Hancock's story, I mean, you can look at archaeological evidence. I don't know how unacceptable it is to people to think that the sea level has changed significantly and weather patterns have shifted like crazy. Like there's places on the planet that are deserts now that used to be very green, and vice versa. It's climates and ecosystems, and our entire planet is shifting around constantly. It's never been stable. I mean, we don't want to keep doing this thing with the engines. I don't want to get back into the climate change discussion, but what I'm saying is that if there really is this coming catastrophe that we are causing ourselves, maybe that's what it is. Maybe the flood in this age is the flood of carbon dioxide. If that's the case, then what would Noah do? What would Harry Seldon do? How would you prepare yourself if you knew this was coming? And it's not unreasonable to think that you can predict the future at least a little bit. What would you do about it? What would I do about it? I mean, I got this land, I bought this place. Maybe I can set up some sort of foundation here. I can create the seeds for rebooting civilization after the collapse. Maybe it'll be economic, maybe it'll be... Who knows? Who knows? That's a big subject. This is just stuff I think about. I think Harry Seldon's a hero. I think him and Noah, he's kind of the same thing as Noah. There's a reason that it's a biblical archetype. This great man who foresees catastrophe, and he works to build something to save everyone. And what's funny about both of these people is that while they're building it at the time, people are like, you're nuts. Like they're calling him crazy. Like, why are you doing this? You shouldn't do this. Like everybody was giving Noah shit, They're like, Noah, what are you building this boat for? And he's like, oh, God told me. And it's like, I think that's the mark of, it's almost part of their heroic journey, is that they have to deal with the other people around them not seeing what they see. It's almost a curse. It's a Cassandra-esque curse. Cassandra was the woman in the mythology of Troy and the Trojan War. There was a woman cursed to be able to see the future. Her name was Cassandra. She did something to piss off some god, as they do. And she had the ability to predict the future accurately, but nobody would believe her. That was the curse. And so she's in Troy. They're sending in the horse, and she's trying to warn everybody, and they're like, shut up, woman. And they ignore her, and then, Troy falls and all that. She was right. So I think Cassandra is kind of a recurring archetype. I don't know if Noah was trying to convince everybody, or if he was just working quietly on his boat. I don't know how that story would go, but... It's a very powerful concept, and I think a very powerful idea. It's an interesting model of a heroic figure. I don't know if Asimov knew what he was doing. I don't know if he was thinking about the flood myth in that kind of way when he was writing the Foundation series. It's a great series. It's a great book. It's short, if I recall correctly. Okay, that's enough for this one.